I am absolutely fuming right now, but not at the people who made the movie. It'll become clear. Hi guys, so later in the video I'm afraid I'm going to have to go into rant mode about something connected to this film and this franchise in general, but we'll leave that for later. To begin with, we'll concentrate on the main reason why we're here, which is to review the movie, which at face value is absolutely fine. I'd seen it before years ago, so I did remember it coming in, and I pretty much got what I expected, which was a good, fun sequel. Another one, because I enjoyed Wrong Turn 2 as well. And the main reason why this film mostly works is because it's got another fresh idea in the middle of it. This concept of a group of prisoners on a convict bus and it overturns, and they're in the middle of the woods where Three Finger lives at the time. So this ends up being a kind of mountain men versus prisoners sort of film with a random final girl thrown in for good measure. And it's fun. It feels like a new take for this franchise. And not only that, but we get a difference in the mountain men as well. So this time around, it's basically Three Finger and his son, whereas in the first film, it was more like a Three Brothers type thing, including Three Finger. Second film was like the extended family tree of all these people, and this time around we get something different as well. So this franchise, up to this point at least, is constantly doing new things, and it's making for some really watchable films, in my opinion. The weakest part of this movie, let's start with the bad stuff, is the beginning and also the end. There's a really dodgy prologue in this where we see a bunch of people on a raft coming down this stream. This could have made for its own Wrong Turn movie, actually. Just have a group of people on a raft, take the wrong river into Three Finger territory. That would feel different to anything we'd done before, I suppose. But it won't be these people, because they die pretty much straight away, apart from the one girl among them who goes on to be the final girl later on. But this opening is problematic for all sorts of reasons. Firstly, the fact that these characters die so quickly. We can hardly get to know them at all. And the reason why this is important is because the final girl starts off among them. So later on, when the final girl turns up amongst the prisoners, it's sort of like, oh, who are you again? You know, we don't really care that much about her because we'd sort of forgotten about her. Whereas if we'd have spent even just 5 or 10 minutes with these characters at the beginning, got an idea about this girl and where she comes from, I think as a viewer, you'd then be more invested in that character later on when she shows up. I'm not asking for a big 20-minute prologue like what we get at the beginning of Friday the 13th, 2009, but something longer than this. You know, don't just have the characters get on shore and then boof, they're all dead. Plus, the girl who dies at the beginning of this, who's like the friend of the final girl, she whips her top off in the first couple of minutes. And yeah, she looked good, but God, she's a bad actress. I'm guessing she's like a model or a porn star or something. But she only has about 3 or 4 lines, and they're all dreadfully spoken. She's really bad. Plus, Three Finger charges into this scenario, doing a kind of giggling thing. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, is that going to be a thing with him from now on for the rest of this franchise? He's going to run into scenes going, because I don't remember that being that irritating in Wrong Turn 1 and 2, but now it's quite noticeable straight off the bat in number 3. Plus, barely a second have I even absorbed this. One of the guys among the group gets killed by a weird trap that's like 2 blades that sort of splits him into 3. It goes down through the shoulder blades as well. Real powerful thing, but also quite an unrealistic sort of trap. And I thought to myself, so have we reached another notable point in the franchise here? Are we moving away from the realism of the first 2 films into sort of more goofier kills, goofier traps kind of thing? So there's a lot to take in this opening scene with the raft and the early kills, and very little of it is positive. But luckily, the rest of the film goes on to be pretty damn good. So I think when I watch this film in the future, I can sort of relax with this opening. I just enjoy it as a bit of chaotic fun, a messy bit of chaotic fun, but at least we know we've got a good horror film coming afterward. The main convicts part of the movie is highly entertaining. So this film copies certain elements from the first 2 movies. From the first movie, we copy this idea of just staying with one group, and then throughout the narrative, different characters will be picked off by the mountain men. The second film went for a slightly more complicated structure where, you know, we had different pockets of people all over the place and we kept having to switch different viewpoints. But we do take something from the second movie with this one, and that's the general tone. This very much carries on the theme of being a very light-hearted, splattery romp. There's no high tension in this with characters hiding under beds like what you got in the first movie or anything like that. To give you an example of just how stupid this film can be at times, and how you should definitely not take it seriously, they come across this money van in the middle of the woods. It's just a government van that's just filled with bags of cash. There's no reason why it should be there. It's just there. Now, I'm not from America, obviously, but I'm pretty sure that if a van like this disappeared in the woods one day, the FBI and the CIA will be swarming over that thing within like 24 hours. It's not just going to be left there as a random curiosity in the woods that one day somebody will come across. No. There are two standout characters amongst the convicts. Most of them are twats, but a couple of them I did like. So one of them is called Chavez. Very bad man, murderer, and he's a bit of a bully throughout this movie, but the actor who's playing him he plays him with such charisma that I just found myself liking him by the midpoint of the movie. And the other character is a guy called Crawford. He's this really cocky but definitely low IQ, stick-thin prisoner. And I guess the joke with this guy is that he's constantly winding people up, even though he looks really weedy. I'm just looking at him thinking, you carry on like that, you'll just get beaten up in prison. But somehow he clearly hasn't up to this point. But this guy gets the funniest line in the film. So he goes to the toilet, comes back out, and then says, "Hey, I just wiped my ass on $100 bills." Because I guess he's got like a bag full of so many $100 bills that he figures he can waste a few wiping his ass, and that's okay. This same character is actually involved in the best kill in the movie as well. So there's this kill where Crawford, he stumbles into this trap set by Three Finger, and he gets lifted to the back of this van on the hook, and there's like a wire mesh that slowly squeezes him to death, but it looks really good. The effects they've gone for, top notch. There's some really dodgy effects elsewhere in the movie. It's hit and miss, but on this particular kill, they've done an absolutely bang-up job. This is definitely the best kill in this movie, and it might be one of the best kills in the overall franchise, actually. The other standout moment in the film is actually also a kill, but I think of it more as just a fight scene. There's a fight scene between Chavez and Three Finger. You're waiting all movie for this to happen, and when it comes, it's glorious. It's just back and forth, and it's just a lot of fun. You don't often see great fight scenes in horror films, but this is definitely one of them. Unfortunately, I do have some lesser impressive things to finish off with, so the final girl in this doesn't really make an impact, in all honesty. She feels like a square peg trying to fit into a round hole. There's just no room for a final girl in this story. Her inclusion feels very forced. She seems like a good actress, but she's just got no reason for being in this plot, really. Even the way she comes across the convicts feels really convenient, like it just genuinely wouldn't happen if this was a real situation. Not that the final boy is that much better. Okay, he's very much a part of the story, given that he's a prison guard, but he's just very bland as a character. And I lost count of the amount of times where we're sort of teased with the idea that he might get killed because somebody puts a gun to his head and says, "Right, I'm going to blow you away." And then somebody else comes up with a reason for him not to die. But I'm sure this happens quite a few times. It just gets irritating eventually. Now, I did say earlier that the end of this film was just as bad as the beginning. Basically, what happens just before the credits is that we get like a one last twist type scene, but there's 3 twists in the space of about 20 seconds before the credits. I've never seen this done before, 3 twists in that short amount of time. Now, when the first twist hits, I'm kind of like, oh, that's quite interesting. Yeah, I like that. And then when the second twist hits, I'm like, boom, double twist, awesome. And then when the third twist hits, I'm kind of like, okay, you just ruined the whole scene. You've taken it way too far now. You've turned the whole scene into a farce. And the third twist actually kind of spoils the big final battle that we had like 5 minutes previous. So there's that as well. So overall, the start and the end of Wrong Turn 3, not very good, but thankfully there is an hour or an hour and a bit of really good stuff in the middle between the mountain men and the prisoners. Now, I'm going to get to the Bag of Terror slightly early today because I want to get everything to do with the movie done so we can move on to the rant. So let's get to the Bag of Terror. I'm not going to tip this upside down today because I've got my wife's Christmas present in the bag and I don't want that going everywhere. Trust me, the Bag of Terror is the last place she would look. Right, let's get to the axes. So we've got 1, we've got 2, we've got 3, 3.5 bloody axes out of 5. That is slightly down on what I gave the first 2 movies, but this is still a really fun romp. And at this stage of this franchise, I'm still thoroughly enjoying it. Right, we'll have one more still picture and then we'll have a little moan. Right, we've reached that point. So if you watched my reviews of the first 2 Wrong Turn movies, you might have noted that I was watching those movies on this release. This is a 6-pack of the first 6 Wrong Turn movies from Germany. And when I was watching Wrong Turn 1, I didn't notice anything wrong with this. But when I was watching Wrong Turn 2, something weird happened. So there's a character called Mara in the film, a quite significant character, but I didn't notice her die, and I was sure that I remembered seeing her die when I'd seen the film years ago on a DVD, but because it was just a one-off thing, I didn't really think much of it. I thought to myself, oh, well, maybe my wife came in the room and spoke to me for a minute and I didn't notice, or maybe I looked down at my coffee for too long. You know, it can happen. So I didn't think anything of it, but I did mention it in my review as a weird thing, you know. But then I watched Wrong Turn 3 on this same box set, and the cat was out the bag, because Wrong Turn 3 has been butchered on this Blu-ray. Like, all the gore's been taken out here, there and everywhere, and I was only able to do this review because I pretty much remembered the movie. I remembered the gorier parts, and I was able to look up some of the kills on YouTube just to remind myself of those kills. But yeah, they've really gone to town on Wrong Turn 3, and it really pissed me off. I think the moment where I fully knew that this box set was garbage was when when Crawford gets lifted up on the back of the truck. All we see in this version is him getting lifted up, and then we cut away. That's it. There's no cool shots of him getting his head squeezed with the wire mesh. We don't see him bouncing along the road. It's all gone. And then later in the movie, that incredible fight scene between Chavez and Three Finger, we get half of that. Like, we get halfway through the fight and then it cuts, and it's like, oh my God, what have they done to this film? Like, the 2 best things about Wrong Turn 3, they've completely ruined. And just this version of the film is just not watchable for me at all. And I dread to think what other bits they've taken out that I just haven't noticed, because I haven't watched this film for years. Now, once I realised what was going on, I went online and tried to do some research. There's not much information available about this Blu-ray set, unfortunately, but I did find one review by a guy who said that they've done this basically for Wrong Turn 3, 4, 5 and 6. Now, he didn't mention 1 and 2. Maybe 1 and 2 get away with this a little bit, but there is that Mara thing with number 2, so... But it's a dreadful way to treat these movies, because, I mean, I'm not a gore hound. I don't watch horror movies for the gore, but this is a franchise where one of the most fun things about it is how splattery it is. There's lots of gore and fun kills. That's part of the Wrong Turn fun. You know, if you're going to strip all that stuff out, it kind of defeats the point of these movies, you know. So I don't get the purpose of this release. I can only imagine that in Germany they've got stricter protocols on releasing violent Blu-rays, but I never would have predicted that. I never would have predicted that was a thing in Germany. So it's been a real surprise to me. I can't remember this happening on any purchase I've ever made of a DVD and a Blu-ray in the last 30 years. Like, I remember films on TV in the 90s, they were always snipped here and there just to get some of the violence out, but never as bad as this. Like the Mara kill, for example. The proper kill, an axe goes into the back of her head, she looks like this, and then you see some blood come down her face. If that had been on TV in the 90s, you would have seen the axe go into the back of her head, you would have seen her go, and then we would have cut. The only thing they probably would have left out is the bit where the blood comes down. They probably would have thought that was excessive or too much. But on this release, they just cut the entire kill out. Like, we're not talking like little snippets of things that you wouldn't notice. We're talking massive chunks of huge sequences just completely gone. It's absolutely atrocious. So I'm very pissed off about this. It cost me £40. They should advertise, if this is a stripped back edited version, I think they should really advertise it on the box. I'm totally not happy about it. I'm not going to get rid of it or send it back or anything like that. I got it from an eBay seller, just a broker that probably never even seen Wrong Turn. So I'll keep it. It might still be worth keeping because Wrong Turn 1 might be okay, but I can't watch any more of these films like in this condition. So I've already started the process of buying 4, 5 and 6 individually. So this one turned up just the other day. I'll watch it very soon. Hopefully a full version of Wrong Turn 4. That apparently the snowmobile sequence is missing from this on this one. But I can't verify that. But that was in one person's review of the box set. But I'll leave it there for today. That really pissed me off. I needed to get that off my chest. But we'll finish with a positive, which is that the actual movie of Wrong Turn 3 is a good sequel. 3.5 out of 5. And I'm really enjoying this franchise, apart from this one blemish that's come along and pissed me off. But we'll leave it there for today. Until next time, cheerio, bye-bye.